It's a spooky thing, and I'd like to play some horror games. But to keep me truly on my toes, I had to do something a little more unexpected, unheard of before. So I tried my best to find some games that no one has ever played before. Okay, maybe not no one, but I found games that have less than 10 reviews on Steam. That's not enough to actually get a general, overwhelmingly positive or mixed or whatever review on Steam. I don't really expect anything super great because of the fact that no one has played them, and a lot of these games are actually somewhat new, so that 10 review benchmark I gave them will probably change by the time this is released. The thing about horror games, or at least there was a time when horror would just blow up because a bunch of YouTubers just played them all the time, and so it was very easy to get sort of clout, if you will, as a horror game or as like an indie horror developer because, you know, all of the biggest YouTubers were just playing indie horror games back in the day. Actually, that leads into our first game, Anonymous Messages, developed and published by Dinar Kafi and released on Steam this year with 6 reviews total, all of which are positive. The funny thing is, though, is that this was played by Markiplier back in 2013.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to Let's Play Anonymous Messages. Okay, I'm a little late to this one.
Okay, in all honesty, it has changed, but not much. The lighting's a bit different, and there's no longer a jump button, I guess, but it's basically the exact same experience from 2013. It's a Slender clone. It's a Slender clone. Even in the Steam, previews are all of the Let's Players playing the game from the 2013 version, even though it was only released this year. Whack. Okay. Fishy Fish. I'll be honest, I'm kind of hyped for this game. If only because, the images on Steam leave a lot to be desired. I have no idea what the fuck this game is. Made by Shift Back Tick, whatever. Released of October this year with 7 reviews, all of which are positive. I'm really interested about this game because it's really, really bizarre. I don't even know if it truly counts as a horror game. Nothing of it is actually really scary or even intense, other than the fact that it's a complete mystery. I do not understand this game at all.
You always fear what you don't understand.
It can be played without graphics. That's an option you have, is to just turn off graphics. That's not like a weird Easter egg, that's a feature. It can be played entirely with sound, and thus actually has pretty good sound design, but it's honestly just confusing on what it is. I want to believe that there's some secret and that I just missed it, or that the game, that once you reach a certain point, the game changes or reveals or jump scares you. I don't know, I didn't get that far, but honestly, I think it deserves cookie points for just being unique. I mean, just what the fuck is this? In terms of a horror game, it's not scary at all, unless you're afraid of fish reacts. Flightmare, a game made by Van Studios, released again in October of this year, with 8 total reviews, 6 of which are positive, and I think 2 of which aren't even in English. This game is pretty good, actually. It just has sort of one major flaw, and that is that I can't figure out where to go. I had to look at different guides or see if any of the reviews had any hints or something, but I don't know where to go. I have this code and I have this keypad, but obviously this code is too big to fit on this keypad. I don't know what to do. And because this game has very few players, there is no walkthrough. Turns out, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go to this corner at the back of the plane and then crouch over this chair to get to the back. That's what you're supposed to do. This is super duper unintuitive. Honestly, just such a stupid hurdle. There's no reason it should have been like this. Imagine taking an English quiz, and then halfway through it asks you to do 15 jumping jacks within 15 seconds. It makes no sense. No one was ever going to be able to figure this out. Obviously some people did, but I mean, this is just a weird bottleneck that unless you got it first try, you would have never figured it out. In fact, I even tried to crawl over a different chair, but of course that's the wrong way. which doesn't make any sort of sense. I know you're trying to limit the way you can go to sort of make avoiding the monster more difficult, but honestly, like, this is such a dumb thing. I feel like there's a better way you could have handled it, especially because the monster does literally just walk through. Other than that, though, it's not bad. It's short. Aside from that one bottleneck, it's pretty good. Forest of Kunks. A game made by Calvin McCall and Tiernar Brazil and published by Aconish One, released in August again of this year, and has a whooping 9 reviews, 8 of which are positive. Damn, we're short, what the hell? It's another game with bad graphics and terrible sound design. Oddly enough though, it's really hard. I couldn't get past day 2. I even tried putting it on an easier difficulty and following the guide that the creator itself published, but I simply couldn't figure out this game, like, at all. I know that mystery is part of horror, but I shouldn't be getting frustrated at what it is I'm supposed to be doing. Imagine playing poker and being unable to see your cards and you don't know what poker hands are. That's not an interesting challenge, that's just confusing. I gotta just talk about Conks for a little bit, okay? I hate this fucking game. Because the thing is you're supposed to use the radar to place your towers, except it doesn't explain how you're supposed to do that. Because unlike using the computer, you have to use the keys. You use the keyboard to move around on the radar, and then you just use the mouse to, like, place shit. And it's visually, you can barely tell what the fuck is happening, and it's super bullshit. And once night comes, you're supposed to just wait until day. I suppose you could read the logs, but reading the logs takes power, and going outside to charge up your power will probably get you killed. Again, I couldn't survive past night 2, so how the fuck am I supposed to read all of this, especially when it scrolls so goddamn slowly? I gave it a second chance, I really did, but just couldn't fucking get it to work. I really wanted this game to be good because it has something I think a lot of the games were missing up until now, and that is substance. It's the only game that has achievements, and it has a lot of them. There's even like a gallery where you can look at all these different enemies, and it's a tower defense game, or at least it's supposed to be, which is pretty unique for a horror game. So I wanted this game to be good, but just I seriously couldn't get past day 2. I do not know how I got an ending other than just like stupid luck. Like I genuinely don't understand this game. It's unbelievably loud.
I can see the end. Can you?
I wish I could see how this fucking game works. So, maybe I just suck, but your game sucks. Alright, and finally, last but not least, Gray's Death, by Salt and Pixel LLC, released in June of 2021. So when I was looking for games with less than 10 reviews, I decided to search by new, because I figured less people would play them, only to realize, a little too late, that you can search by relevance and just scroll to the bottom to get the same results, and usually find older games that way. Oh well. So this game only has 8 reviews, and 6 of which are positive. And despite that, it's actually probably the best one on this list. It's actually good. A little rough with the climbing sometimes, but the game has good sound, responsive controls, and nice pixel art. It's a fucking finally good game. Every game prior to this, I had to either bash my head against the wall trying to figure out what was preventing my progress, or just had some weird confusion. It doesn't boot up in Steam normally. You have to go into the game files to open it, which, okay, yeah, I'll dock points for that, but other than that, the gameplay is actually just fine. It's a puzzle platformer where resources are tight and platforming is tighter, and while it can be definitely difficult, there was no moment where I felt frustrated or confused on what it is I was supposed to do. I suppose that's the real takeaway from this. A lot of these games, specifically 2 of these games, had weird bottlenecks that just prevented me from progressing and engaging with the game. And if they didn't have that, they probably would be way better. Flightmare would have been a fun experience if I hadn't spent an hour trying to figure out how to get to the back of the plane. Conks seems interesting, but I can't figure out the game, period. And it's also deafening. And Sisyphus, while confusing, was never frustrating, and has an actual functional tutorial, unlike Conks. But honestly, the main takeaway is that your game should fucking work, and that it's very easy for people creating puzzles, or just indie developers in general, to fall into these bottlenecks where you have a bunch of content, or like a well-structured game flow or gameplay loop, but there's something that's just preventing it, like a little nick. Perhaps your players walked over the flashlight. I did that a lot, actually, which, okay, that's kind of dumb, but you can never really predict what your players are going to do, and so you should try your hardest to ensure that they're not going to miss some key detail, or that the game becomes so utterly confusing that it is basically unplayable. Like last time, the links to the games will be in the description in order of what I think is worth your time. All in all, as dumb as this experiment was, it was at least kind of interesting to see a bunch of horror games. And fortunately, none of them were really asset flips, except for maybe Anonymous Messages, which was just straight up a 2013 game. Like, it says it's released this year. I don't know. It feels exactly like it's Slender Man, bro. I'm sorry. Not sorry.